Speaking of fake news, Joe Rogan mocks The View after co-host accused him of believing in dragons. Okay, the first thing I want to do is show you the clip from these... I'm almost like, if I was going to show you a bunch of clucking hens, we can put on Chicken City, but I'll give you The View instead, as they disparage Joe Rogan.
People want us divided, and they aren't just here in this country. They're foreign adversaries who are infiltrating our social media because it is prudent for us to stay that way. But so when you see something that really pisses you off, you should triple check that one.
Yeah. But I think that's why people like our show, because they know that we are checked by ABC News.
We're checked by everybody.
Yeah, I mean, if we're wrong, we have, the legal note here.
That is a new development.
Human legal.
But we went from Walter Cronkite basically to this guy Joe Rogan, who believes in dragons. I checked it. He believes in dragons. He believes in dragons.
Did you triple source that?
Yes, I did. And he also thinks that dragons, like dinosaur type of animals, roamed the earth when people did. So this is the type of really, really bad information that's going out there.
Isn't it funny that she just said, we have legal disclaimers and we're checked by ABC News. Also, Joe Rogan believes in dragons. And so Joe Rogan changed his Twitter bio to Dragon Believer. And that's my new official X description, Rogan said, changing his bio to Dragon Believer. He posted the clip.
Where do they? Oh, I want to know what he said about dragons. That
he probably didn't say anything.
There's like terror.
Dragons
There's terror birds.
dragons. Probably
they probably found one of those meme clips where some people will edit podcasts to make jokes, and was it Joy?
It was Pink Trip or something.
They believe, and they believe it, and they go, "Wow, he believes in dragons."
Or he was talking about like animals. They're like, dude, these are like legit. It's crazy. Like,
or he was smoking weed, and it was called
dragons. They're just really.
It's a strain of weed called dragons with humans.
It's like, oh, didn't you know chickens are still considered dragons, man? And then he's just like, oh yeah, totally, I believe that. There we go.
They're like little dinosaurs.
Little dinosaurs.
Jamie looked that up.
The whole tone of these shows, it's amazing because they spend most of their time post-election asking themselves, what's wrong with the country? I don't understand. What's wrong with everybody? And not, what's wrong with us?
Yeah, I know.
I mean, that's something that I've said a bunch of times.
Yeah.
Like, they hate America. That's like we were talking on PCC today. We were talking about Ellen DeGeneres and her wife are leaving, and it's like, well, they hate America. They hate the fact that Donald Trump was elected by a majority of the American voting population and by the Electoral College. And they just
look at elitism, a disdain for those. That's why they keep saying, listen, college-educated women voted for Kamala.
I mean, sort of.
That's the facts. And I'm like, well, maybe college doesn't educate you.
That's true. Sort of, but it's not just, it is elitism, but there's also there's people that don't feel any connection to the United States.
They hate this country.
People that tend to be that tend to live in cities.
Yeah.
Like you can live in London, or you could live in Paris, or you could live in New York, or you could live in LA, or you could live in, any number of cities in the West, and it mostly feels the same. You'll get most of the same stuff. Like you'll get a little bit different food maybe, but otherwise it's the same thing. But if you live in the woods or in outside of the major cities, it's real different. Like if you live in the desert, if you live outside of Phoenix in the desert, it's totally different to living in New England. Sure. Outside of the city. So that kind of stuff makes a difference. And people that are cosmopolitan like that, they're just like, whatever, it's all the same to me. I live in a city, and I live in the city in the US or London or whatever, and it's like it's all the same. They don't have any connection to where they're from.
I'm doing some fact checking on Rogan's beliefs on dragons. Joe Rogan's dragon beliefs. This is from an episode of his podcast with Adrian Lappalucci, if you want to look into it. According to the snippets, he talked about ancient cultures like the Chinese, Japanese, ancient European cultures. They suggested dragons might have been real flying lizards or flying crocodiles. He said he's not sold on the fire-breathing aspect, but is convinced that there were large reptilian creatures that were referred to as dragons. Now, I'll go a step further and suggest it is possible that they had flammable saliva, and maybe it was they clicked something in the back of their throat and could make a spark.
This dragon believer.
Just wait till Joey Behar comes after you.
Now you have this guy, Tim. Pull.
Maybe
they talking about saliva.
Joe Rogan spitballing as I bet there probably were stuff like this, and then to turn it into he believes that dragons.
He suggested that these dragons might have been real. Might have been.
Kimono dragons are real.
There's
Like,
literal dragon.
There are
Kimono dragon.
There are
Not
giant
flying, but-
lizards that are bad.
Dude,
you know,
birds are like flying lizards. I mean, at some point we had dinosaurs.
So,
they were
don't prove
considered
Joey right.
Mika and Joe ended up
I hear
making up with Donald Trump. Do you think there's any potential for The View to also make up with Donald
100%.
Trump?
Trump doesn't.
Whoopi's a
hold grudges.
comedian. I could totally see her going on the show and but I don't know. At this point, it's too far gone.
it's
And
actually-
a real betrayal of sort of the comedian's understanding of things. Like she comes from that world. We forget because she's been on the show so long.
Joe's
Whoopi
point.
Goldberg.
Joe's point is actually really, really simple. You go back 2,000 years or whatever, and you've got a village of 100 people, and let's just say it's I don't know, Rome, and what's an old Latin name? I don't know, like Lucius or something. Is that Latin?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Lucius.
There you go. And he's like in Latin, I'm gonna go travel to the next town over to see if they've got metal of some sort. And as he's walking, he's like boop boop boop, and he sees a big lizard, and it's like it's huge. It's like probably a meter. And then he goes back and he's like, I swear it was as big as this. It was massive. And then some guy was like, did you hear what Lucia said? There was a lizard. It was like 6 feet tall.
Oh, yeah.
And then some guy's like, I hear there's a 6 foot tall lizard walking around. And then someone's like, yeah. And it was spitting and screaming, spitting. Wow. Yeah. Spitting fire, they say. And he didn't mean literal fire. But my point is, when you hear these stories about monsters, like the story of this, like where does Cyclops come from? They found an elephant skull. And the nose socket or whatever looks like
one.
Yeah, and they thought it was a cyclops head. And so then they draw pictures.
Yeah.
So you go back far enough and someone's going to be like, I fought a giant beast. It was 7 feet tall, or they wouldn't say feet or whatever. And it was like a black bear, and
The
then
Minotaur was like actually just a bull.
yeah, it was a bull
maze.
that stood up and trampled somebody.
Did you see Richard?
A bull in a maze.
Did you see the conversation between Richard Dawkins and Jordan Peterson? He's like, do you actually believe in dragons or not? You talk about dragons as if they're biological creatures. Do you believe in dragons?
What did Jordan Peterson say?
Well, he went to the mythological. He was like, take, the most terrifying things you can think of, It's like, fire and wings and teeth that can soar through the heavens, and destroy you. You've had your own dragons in your life, to Richard. But he went to the mythological. They were talking cross purposes.
And Jordan Peterson did say that you're a chimpanzee full of snakes.
I wouldn't be surprised if there was
Don't think he means it literally.
glandular fire making.
I do not believe that.
I don't think there would be any fossil records of the glands, so I don't know. All that stuff would decompose. Maybe stuff literally could spit flammable fluid.
More
Maybe.
disturbingly is like they're conflating the idea, and they're so threatened by. They're presenting it as if it's this threat that people have conversations and talk loosely about things because and the fact that they're like, we have to be the controlled, center of what is true and not true. We are the ones who tell you and the authority. There's this appeal in this clip that you could see this sort of elitism to. They're so threatened by the popularity of conversation.
I don't want to hear anyone on The View telling me that they're going to judge Joe Rogan because he believes in dragons, because I bet at least one of them believes in astrology.
Or that men can get pregnant.
There you go.
But wouldn't it be funny if just like a couple thousand years ago, there's some like Chinese dude and he was like walking between towns, and then there's like, I don't know where the Komodo dragons are native to, but let's just say there's like a big lizard somewhere.
Yeah.
And it runs out of the bush after having just tried to eat a piece of flaming refuse because a lightning strike happened. And so it runs up and just barfs, and this ball of fire
here
falls
we go.
out.
There are the bombardier beetle is a real animal that spits flammable liquid called hydroquinones.
It's not flammable.
This says
Boiling. It's not
it's
flammable.
a toxic boiling substance.
And it doesn't spit.
Well, there you go. The chemicals mix in the air and undergo the exothermic heat-releasing chemical reaction.
I was literally just looking at a bombardier beetle's
boiling
like 2 days
hot,
ago.
yeah, irritating boiling hot fluid. So if there was a flying lizard that spit this hydroquinones,
What's that shrimp that can snap so hard it creates a plasma blast?
Yeah, what is it?
What is it? Pistol shrimp. Yeah, it snaps its little claw so fast it creates a vacuum, which creates a burst of light.
It's like Street Fighter shrimp.
Yeah, it's like a Hadouken. It's plasma.
Hadouken!
Yeah, that's right. Those
You
shrimp.
sent us down a rabbit hole.
Dangerous shrimp. But this is the nature of the media. They don't like Joe Rogan, and they sit here telling how we tell the truth. Meanwhile, they just spit lies all day to the point where they have to have legal disclaimers. When she's like, we have a legal notice here, the human legal notice, I'm like, that's not a good thing to have to have.
Did you see their
That's
second
indicative
one?
of how many lies you have.
they just released another one.
She did another one.
Yeah, today.
Disclaimer?
Yeah, another one.
I don't
Sonny.
think that it was about.
It was Hegseth.
Oh, Fox News. They're just like, hey, you'll be hearing from our lawyers, Sonny.
Doesn't
Yeah,
seem
let's
to
see if
be
we find
working, whatever they keep doing, because judging by the way the cultural tides have turned.
I think
Well,
now
I
that
mean,
they
it's
got
not
Matt Gates, they're going to go for Pete Hegseth next, by the way.
They're
That's where
only
the-
interested in getting. They're after the awfuls. They're after the awful viewership. Just affluent white ladies that are.
It's siloing itself off more and more and more the more they double down on it. So just it doesn't seem to be.
But I don't think that it matters. I don't think that obviously they don't want to get sued. But beyond legal ramifications, they don't have to say anything that's true.
Well, they don't want to get Alex Jones or her Fox News.
So here's the video. This is from today at 1 p.m. Sonny Hostin has to read another correction on air for false claims she made against Matt Gates and Pete Hegseth. Here you go.
Sorry. I have a legal note. Matt Gates has long denied all allegations and has not been charged with any crime. Gates previously dismissed allegations that he paid for sex, saying that, quote, someone is trying to recategorize my generosity to ex-girlfriends as something more untoward. Another legal note, Pete Hegseth's lawyer said he paid the woman in 2023 to head off the threat of a baseless lawsuit. He has denied any wrongdoing.
Just call the show Legal Note from now on.
I just got to point this out. We don't have to do this. We don't have to have a legal notice over the fake things that we say on this show because we don't say fake things.
Yeah. In fact, if a fake thing gets said on the show, we'll actually shut the show down for the integrity of the show or correct it in real time. But there have been instances where we've actually terminated the process because of integrity is more important than.
We have never shut the show down for being wrong.
Well, making baseless claims, I think I've done that once when you were like, it's over.
I see what you're saying.
I'm looking a little bit more at.
They're trying to avoid a lawsuit here, and they're covering their bases. Obviously, it's horrible to say wrong things about political people and not give their full comments and statements, but they saw what happened to Alex Jones and Sandy Hooks. They're seeing what's happening with Dominion and Fox News. I think there's another polling company that's also suing Fox News. So they don't want a multi-million-dollar lawsuit from these very litigious, I'm sure Matt Gates and Pete Hegseth have some of the greatest lawyers around. So
we have a correction. Official Lucid Traveler says it's the mantis shrimp. And if a human had the arm strength relative to our size, we could launch a baseball into orbit from a standing position.
It's cool. You're going to get sued by those pistol shrimp now for lying about them.
So it creates a vacuum underwater. It forces the water away from each other, so there's a vacuum, and then there's a burst of light from plasma or something. It's so powerful.
Now everybody's
cavitation.
Everyone in the ocean is going to think these pistol shrimp are a threat now and a threat and a danger because Tim was spreading fake news.
Apparently, there are huge hawks in Australia that carry smoldering sticks in their beaks or claws.
Everything in Australia wants to kill you, though.
To intentionally spread brush fires.
Everybody knows.
They'll carry flaming things.
Everybody knows, Ian, that Australia is a high-level zone for endgame players.
So that's these. Maybe people mistook flying hawks with carrying flaming sticks as dragons that fly down and light brush on fire. To
be careful,
the United States is basically Elwyn Forest. Okay. It's like there's boars everywhere. They can't hurt you, and everything's fine, and you're comfortable, and you just run around, and it's very easy.
That's the starting zone for the Alliance in World of Warcraft.
You're going to get Joy Behar tomorrow just going after you, talking about pistol shrimp.
Tim Pool thinks that there's a forest of boars where you get experience points, and it's called World of Warcraft.
Then they're going to read a legal note. We have to say Tim Pool did not actually say.
I do want to just mention as we get into the next story too, World of Warcraft has become a hodgepodge of nonsense, and all of everything has become hodgepodge nonsense because they're trying to interconnect it. Like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, there's a funny meme where it's like the first movie comes out and they're like, wow, a billionaire in a flying suit. And then it's like 2024 and the multiverse is collapsing. Gods are fighting on the planet. There's a giant hand reaching out from the ocean because the earth is an egg. None of it makes sense. The governments are collapsing. There's bombs. It's just nuts. And then you get games like World of Warcraft where they're like, the new expansion comes out and they're like, now we're underground. And I'm like, you've gone to other dimensions. You've gone to the past, to the future. Now underground. At a certain point, it's just, you're not expanding the story. You're just throwing random things into the mix. But anyway, I digress. Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.